Not sure how it's going to work. We'll go ahead as best we can. I need a motion and a second, please, for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Dr. Shipley has moved and Mr. Riley has seconded. Any additions to the
Yes.
agenda?
Under Superintendent's Business B1, discussion of students' last day of school. And at the end, I put it under old business. We need to schedule a special board meeting either the 17th or the 24th for additional personnel items and hirings that need to take place.
All right.
Will you give us that one more time?
At the end, we need another board meeting this month, either the 17th or the 21st, for additional hirings and personnel actions.
21st graduation.
The Mondays, the 17th or the 24th. That's the only additions I had.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Bess,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes. We have minutes to approve of the April 19th, 2021 regular meeting. I have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Riley has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And Mr. Davis has seconded. Any additions, corrections?
Go ahead, Charlie.
May I ask?
Mrs. Campbell, I can't hear you at all.
Okay. Can you now? Can you now?
No.
I think it's turned up about as high as it'll go. I don't know. You're hearing others? Are you hearing everyone else? If she can't hear me, you'll have to listen.
Are you hearing everybody else, Mrs. Bess?
I can hear you, Mr. Schweitzer, and Mr. Riley, and Mr. Davis, but I can't hear the other end of the table.
Huh.
Eddie, if I mute the laptop here in front of me, does that help? Her to pick up from microphones versus laptop?
Just try your mic and see if it works. I'll move your chair if it does.
Charlie, can you hear me on this mic?
No.
Are ours interfering with it? Or?
She's picking up on the laptop and not from the mic.
Did we vote on the minutes? Did we vote on the minutes yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley,
Yes.
Mrs. Bess,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes. Next item on our agenda is public input on the moving of inside millage. This is our treasurer, Mr. Brian Schweitzer. He'll have some explanation to get us started, and then we'll open the floor.
I'm Brian Schweitzer, your district treasurer and financial advisor. This building, the Career and Technical Center that you sit in now, is over 45 years old. Your three high school buildings, Peebles, West Union, and North Adams, are over 20 years old. Just like your houses, things start to break down. Heating and cooling systems need replaced, plumbing fixtures wear out, doors and windows need replaced, recaulked, and resealed, carpeting and flooring needs replaced, and general maintenance needs to occur. Currently, the board does not have a permanent improvement fund to address the needs of these buildings. To repair or replace these items, the board has to take money away from the educational program of your kids. The board has in front of it a proposal The board is considering giving every property owner in the county a 1 mil tax break. This would be equal to $100 for every $100,000 in property valuation. In addition, the board is considering moving 2.5 mils of current taxation to a permanent improvement fund to maintain the public's buildings. Tonight, the board is asking for public input on this proposal. Public input is not a debate or a question and answer session. The board will sit and listen to what you have to say. No decision will be made tonight. The board will decide in open session at 5 p.m. on June 28th in this very room how it will react to this proposal. This meeting is being broadcast to the public. The board wants to receive your input. For each property owner that would like to comment, the board is asking that you sign in over here on the yellow sheet. Please print your name so we can enter it in the minutes. Then step to the microphone and clearly state your name so that the board and the viewing public can hear who you are. Everyone that would like to speak will be given 3 minutes to state their feelings and opinion on the proposal. The board will not respond to what is said. They are here to listen. So if anyone would like to comment on this proposal, please step forward, put your name on the sheet, come up to the podium. Please space yourself out, social distancing, and we would like to hear your opinion.
If anyone here has signed the sheet and is prepared to speak, it is open.
Hi, I'm Holly Johnson. I'm here as a taxpayer from Adams County. I understand the maintenance of a house. I do maintenance on my house every day, and I understand your need. I just feel as a taxpayer and as a voting citizen, I think you need to put it back on the ballot to have it re-voted on. I don't feel that you should be able to take the tax levy that we voted on to do this and to run it as a permanent to continue on. I think it should go back to the taxpayer to allow them to make that decision on that. I think that's the only right thing in this situation to do. Do I have an issue with the way that you have spent the dollars? Absolutely, I do not. I understand that this building's 45 years old. I went here. I understand all of that, but I think it's time in this day, in this era, the way that the taxes are, that you allow us to make that decision again. I don't think that anybody should have, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer. Allow the taxpayer to make that decision and to put it back to you guys. That's all I have to say.
Hi, my name is Susan Powell. I also am a taxpayer. My husband and I own about 530 acres, and we farm that. It's just the two of us, and we work really hard to do that. But it takes $10,000 of taxpayer, we pay taxes and insurance, and we have to pay that out before we ever see a dime of profit. So if we have a bad year, we still have to pay $10,000, and we get what's left. So I understand maintenance. We do it on the farm every day. I understand that. And I understand there's a lot of responsibilities here. I get that too. But I'm also with Holly Johnson, that I think that it should go back on the ballot and let us vote for it. I have no problem paying taxes. My children are grown, but I have grandchildren that goes to school. I have no problem with that. But it should be my choice to vote on where that money goes. You shouldn't be able to move money like this. I think it's wrong. I don't think, this is like coming in the back door. People can't be here at 5 o'clock to come here and state their point and their purpose for this. They're at work. I luckily can take the time off from the farm and come. But I think it should be given the right to every voter in this county to do that. They should have that right, and you're not giving people the right. You're just transferring money over to do what you need to do, and I get that. But ask me first. You're spending my money without asking me. And that's just all I've got to say. You need to give people a voice, a chance. They'll vote, and they'll do what's right, and I'll vote and do what's right. But give me my chance. It should be my opportunity and my chance to vote how my tax dollars are spent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Talitha Parks, and I don't think I printed that clearly, so I know that there's going to be some questions on the spelling, so I'll fix that when I go sit back down. I actually have a concern that the general awareness of our community, they have no idea what's going on. And I've tried to speak with some of them and the people who have complained about taxes and stuff like that. And I said, well, have you attended any of the school board meetings? Are you aware of what's going on? And they actually have no clue. And I know it was printed in the paper, but I myself couldn't even understand it. I had to ask my husband to simplify it for me, and that's why I'm here. Also, 5 o'clock, I started a new job today. I had to ask early. I had to ask off early to be able to get here to attend. So if there was a way that we could make sure that our community is aware of what's going on, I think most of them would agree with Holly and the other lady that spoke. I love children. Anybody who knows me knows that their interest is what I put first and foremost. And I believe our community would do the same if it was allowed to go on the levy, something that we as a community could vote upon. So I think that, first of all, there's not enough awareness. Not a lot of people know what's going on. So this is kind of happening in the back door, I guess you could say, or behind their back, and I think that they're going to be pretty upset when they realize what's going on. I know that the people that I've spoken with have, and it's not something that I went out investigating. It was actually brought to me, so as I just asked my own mother if she knew what was going on, and she didn't. So there is a lot of property owners who have no clue what's going on or what's being decided for them. So even if everybody doesn't agree with us, they should still be able to understand in their own language what is being asked of them or what is being done on their behalf. So if there was some type of communication, some different type of something that we can, I don't know how many people read the paper, not very many. So if there's some type of other posting or anything like that that we could do to make the community more aware, because our children are our community, so it needs to be done with as much involvement from our community as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? We do appreciate your input. That's why we opened this up this evening. It's been being discussed for several months. I don't know how many of you read the board minutes in the newspaper, but it's been in there a few times that it was being discussed and determining how much. I don't have the figures, but we've spent a lot of money in the last 2 years with new chillers, roofing. I don't know, Brian or David, you have kind of an idea. It's just a lot of people use these buildings every day, so you have to understand the wear and tear is a lot. And if we don't have that money to fix them up, we're so proud of our buildings, and they're lovely. As old as they are lovely because we've been able to maintain them. And this was a way we thought we could continue to do that and still give the taxpayers some money back for what you've been paying. So at this time, do we have anything for student achievement tonight? Okay. Yeah, if you don't want to sit through the business part of the meeting, you are free to leave. No decision will be made tonight on this. This was our meeting to get some input or whatever. We appreciate your interest, and thank you for coming. I need a motion and a second, please, for the treasurer's report and business.
So moved.
Mr. Riley's moved. I'll second. Brian?
Sure. We have several donations again tonight. We have the approval of the May 5-year forecast. As I mentioned in our Finance Committee meeting, statewide, this May 5-year forecast statewide is very uncertain. We do not know what the funding formula will be for next year. We have the governor's plan, we have the House plan, and we have the yet-to-be-announced Senate plan, and none of the three are alike. So when you look at your 5-year forecast, it will probably look totally different come November, depending on which plan is adopted. For the life of this 5-year forecast, we are in the black. It continues the trend we've seen in the last several forecasts. Our enrollment is dropping, which leads to an incremental loss of funds. Our expenses are climbing, and we're steadily eating into our cash balance. We have transfers of funds in preparation of year-end. Our year-end is June the 30th, so we are having operational transfers from the general fund to FRS, to the CTC, for preparation of the next farm payment, to close out the chiller project, and to fund the termination benefit fund per actuarial study based upon the retirement eligible employees we have. We have the Southern Ohio ESC agreement for special ed services for the upcoming school year. And finally, we have what's been worked on. When the board hired me in December of 15, you rejected bids that night for a bus garage. So I know since December 15 you've been working on this. Tonight we are purchasing, or you have in front of you a purchase agreement for a facility to be turned into a maintenance and transportation facility for the district. And the additional property, once it was surveyed, it was found that the fencing around this project actually encroaches onto another parcel, which then added to the purchase. And those are the action items I have for tonight.
Okay, discussion, please.
I'd like to speak to a couple of those as chair of the F&T as well as the Finance Committee. Start with the 5-year forecast there that Brian mentioned on E. I'd like to thank Brian and Sherry and Mary Beth and the team that put a lot of work into that. And just like you to make note that, as Brian mentioned, that is the best case scenario with the funding proposals that are out there in the state legislature. And it was encouraging that even though you look out, we usually don't pay much attention to years 3, 4, 5. Historically, those years would forecast that we would be in the red, not only in the operation, but that we would have eaten through any money that we had in the bank reserves. So it's encouraging to see that in that proposal that we will still maintain in the black out at years 4 to 5. So hopefully, even if the projection comes in a little worse, we still will be able to manage through those years. We can make adjustments sooner, knowing what's coming later. So that was encouraging. Thanks to Brian and the team that put in a lot of work on that. And then the additional property purchase, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. So there's another property that is being surveyed across the street, and it actually crosses over into the property that we were looking at, and it's important that it become part of this project so there are no disputes over where that fence and that property line are, and it allows the road to be the division between the two properties rather than the property across the street owning a sliver of land, along the front and side of what we're looking at. So it's just a clearer boundary of what that survey would look like, and that's on page 93 of your packet, if anyone didn't get a chance to see that.
It's 4 acres, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 4 acres, but it's not laid out like we would think of 4 acres out here in the field.
Yeah. It's road front.
It's much different, yeah. And not really, I would say it's not a huge win to us, except for it makes it clean of what we own and helps us on the legal front of what is our property and where's the lines.
Is that outside of the fence?
It crosses in and out of the fence along the front and then goes along the railroad track as the road curves away from the property.
So it's kind of like this.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
For that in our packet, Dave.
Yep, page 93.
Yes.
Any additional comments or concerns? Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is our superintendent's report and business. Do you have anything legislatively tonight?
The only thing, well, first I just want to say, thanks to the board, and I see Mr. Groom sitting back there and other people that have, picked up the slack for me as I've been out for the last few weeks with a back surgery. I'm not sure I'm going to be running the marathon here real soon, but, getting a few winks of sleep's good, and being on the mends is really good. Whether I'm out or not, things keep happening and keep moving right along, so.
Rich,
Yes.
I can hear you pretty good, but the rest is not very clear.
Ask her if she could hear the speakers.
Can you hear this, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So legislatively, it's good to see that 5-year forecast, which the Senate bill or the House bill, substitute House Bill 110, is, it was passed by the House, and it's good to see that where our forecast is in line with that, because that's probably for me, it's been the most pressing thing. So the board knows, I think I've probably told each one of you this individually, that reaching out to, and you certainly, I feel free to do this, whether it be Senator Johnson, Terry Johnson, or our representative, Mr. Brian Baldridge, they need to know how that impacts us. And I know Brian and I have our concern about what's called the fair funding bill as it went through the House. In my opinion, I think Brian's opinion, I speak for him as well, it does not serve us as well. And if you look then compare that to what Governor Mike DeWine had put out there, there's a stark difference between it. So you've kind of got, as you look at the political layout, you've got Mike DeWine in one corner, the House in a corner, and the Senate in another corner. And so as we are speaking now about the funding formula, the Senate is putting something together. I'm sure they will then go to a conference committee, and we will hopefully have a new budget bill by July 1. I don't know that I would if experience tells me anything, I don't know that I would bet on July 1, but we would certainly be hopeful for that. So, as the board knows, and as the public may know, anybody listening to this, every 2 years we have to revisit that, not knowing the amount of dollars that we're going to get to run the school. The one big item for me is certainly the wellness dollars. The wellness dollars were thrown right back into the whole pot of money. So keep in mind to our board, and correct me on this, Brian, but I think it was $1.3 million we received in the first year of the biennium budget. Then we received $1.9 million. I think we were projected to receive, I believe, 2.3 and then 2.9 million, or 2.6 or 2.9 million in the fourth year. That was just literally taken off and thrown back into the big pie, and it's a concern for me because what I thought was beautiful about that, it speaks to wellness. It's called wellness dollars, but it speaks to poverty. And right, wrong, or indifferent, we are defined as one of those counties that, although maybe poverty and perhaps the median income, we're rich in a lot of other things, as we all know. But that's something that I thought was a wonderful move by the governor and the legislative body to say, here, use this money for safety and for wellness. It has served us well, and I'm worried about losing those defined dollars for that. So imagine taking that money, picking it up, and just throwing it and spreading it out all over the other school districts, and it doesn't have a defined purpose, and I think that's wrong. I think it should be for what it was for, and because it certainly, I'm going to speak to our needs. It hurts us because I think we're doing some good work, and we will continue to do what we can with the dollars that we have. So that's what I think about what's going on legislatively. Any thoughts from the board on the House bill, Sub-House Bill 110?
I agree that the health and wellness dollars are critical to our district, especially in the mental health front and the growing need of our exceptional education,
I
you
just
know.
want, I'm sorry, David.
Go ahead, no, you're fine.
Go ahead.
I'm finished.
I just want,
As far as addressing the health and wellness and especially the mental health needs, I have listened many times to the news and the things going on around our country, and I've been so thankful, as you said, Mr. Cease, for a county that's so rich and so many other blessings, and the fact that our teachers wanted to get back in the classrooms to our kids. Our kids were able to at least be in the classroom. I know this has been a stressful year for everyone in all parts of society with the unsureness and the COVID and the mandates. But I think it would have been even harder on our kids not to have had the opportunity to be in school. And our teachers and staff are once again to be commended for their commitment to the kids. But, you know, this is such a strange year. You take our preschoolers who began school this year, they've maybe not seen their classmates full face and maybe won't see them inside of the school building because they've been masked the entire time. That's quite a different experience when you can't see someone's full facial expression when you're a young student and still learning how to judge socially people's facial expressions to know, you know, if that person approaching you is happy, sad, angry. So those wellness dollars are extremely important for our students.
Thank you. We certainly all agree. I don't know if she can hear me or not.
As Mr. C's referenced, the fair funding formula, our district is over 50% economically disadvantaged. We have over 20% of our student body with special needs. We have one of the largest transportation areas for daily transport of bus service. Mm-hmm. And those three areas have not been costed out in the fair funding formula. And that's why, with the loss of student wellness, will really put us in a trying financial time. So the best proposal we've heard so far has been the governor's proposal. We'll see what the Senate comes up with.
yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda is education, curriculum, and instruction.
I think Mrs. Best, Charlie, you've mentioned the trying year that we've been in, but there's, in speaking with Dr. Oblitzel the other day and looking forward to next year, we don't know we're not sure what it's going to look like. How much of what we've done this year will remain intact for next year. So, but aside from that, that's always being monitored. We see things changing every day. We're grateful that, for instance, this board here in a few weeks will be participating in graduation, which is the big event. And we will be in person, and each of the schools, depending on the number of students, will be able to put out so many tickets so that the family can be there in person, and all that's been mapped out. But again, that requires a lot of work, always monitoring the safety and the protocol that we're asked to follow. It's not that I as a person necessarily agree with, and I've had several of these conversations, it's not whether I agree with what somebody's telling us to do. I follow the orders from the Ohio Department of Health and the governor's orders, the health orders. And I would say that really it's been a real positive year because the kids have been great. And really the staff and everybody has been really phenomenal. They really have been. I mean, Mr. Parker's sitting back there. He deals with a lot of the investigations as it comes to the quarantining and the conversations that go back and forth with the school nurses. So stand by because we don't know what it's going to look like. But we were in person, and we're not, and that's something to be very, very proud of. But it was a very taxing issue on all of us, everybody that has worked in the system. So again, I say this often, stay tuned. We don't know what it's going to look like. But there were learning losses. And we know that. And we know that there's a learning loss every summer. When the kids leave and then they come back, there's a loss of learning and retention, let's just say. So there's an extended learning plan. There's discussions that have been going on with I know with both Lisa and Tad and the principals of things that we can do. We've got some dollars earmarked, whether it's ESSER 2 monies or discussion now with the federal dollars to try to address that learning gap. You know, it's there, and we're a school that has gone 5 days a week for the most part, except for that we had about a two and a half week little stint there where our numbers were really up with COVID. So we're really, overall, we're pretty blessed to be where we are. But I think that, you know, I know that the board gets the school management. If you take a look at that, there's a pretty extensive list of to-dos on there, much of which we'll have to revisit for the start of next year. So that's it on education.
Okay.
Mr. Steve, there has been some discussion about the last day of school for students and staff, and maybe, you know, we've spoken with Enos and addressed that, and we've discussed that as a possibility. Would you address that, please?
Certainly. So the last 2 days of school would be May 24th, which is a Monday, and the May 25th, which is a Tuesday. So in the school calendar this year, and with all the, I know a lot of the things that we've brought into the buildings and the perhaps the, I guess you could say the interesting times that we've been living through, you know, kind of had this discussion going on back and forth about whether, you know, we were able to have the kids come out a day early, which would be their last day of school would be Monday, May 24th, instead of Tuesday, May 25th. I did check with EMIS, which would be Vicki Fritz. We would be good to go. We could exit school as of per the hours. You know, the elementary has to have 910 hours, which we're well over, and then of course the high school have to have 1,001, which we meet that mark if we were to allow kids to be out of school on that Monday. Staff would report on Tuesday. There's going to be plenty for them to do, and if that's something that the board would like to entertain, I think that would be a very much appreciated. You know, letting the kids out just that one day early. So, Charlie, thoughts?
Well, my thought was the rest of the board is agreeable. Could we make a resolution for that? I think that would give the staff
Opportunity. Like we said, it's been such a difficult, stressful year to go in and get their rooms cleaned up, things put back in order the way they like it. Maybe give them a jump start for next school year, because as Mr. C said, we don't know what next school year is going to look like either. But if we have to come back under the same conditions, it might give them a little more prep time and help them both this year and next year.
I also think that, and another, when a calendar, we look at another calendar, I really like the idea of, and especially with this year, because there's, like I said, whether it's dividers that are out there, things can be wiped down and put away. I think it would be good on our part to look at maybe that day to get us started and the day to close us down and bring closure, because oftentimes we don't have that in our calendar, and that's something that we can work with the union on and the board to get that accomplished. But yeah,
That day would also give grade level teams a chance to, or subject area teams, to recap their year and see what didn't work. You know, I think if you wait till August when you come back, sometimes you can't really remember what you thought of through the year that you might want to change. So it could be a closing, but also could be planning toward the next year. So, Brian, do you have a resolution, or can you put one together?
Yes, we put one together. Just need a first and a second, and we'll fill it up with all the fancy whereas and therefores that the last day for students will be May the 24th. Staff will still report for May 25th, and we'll make it proper.
Okay, thank you. So I need a motion and a second, please.
So
I'll
moved.
make that motion.
Okay, they're fighting over it. I think Mrs. Shipley was first.
Now they're fighting over the second.
I think it's David had a second, didn't you?
I did not, Rick or
Oh,
Charlie.
Rick?
I would like the second, but I'll be deep in the list now.
I would like to third. I think we're all in agreement that it would be valuable to give that day. So I have down Dr. Shipley as making the motion and Mr. Davis as seconding it. Is there any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Bess?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. Okay.
We also have a facility transportation contract to hit there.
Item C is facilities, transportation, and security. We have a transportation contract for a student. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Riley's moved and Mrs. Bess has seconded. It was in the packet, it's pretty self-explanatory. Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Bess?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is personnel. Before we do that, I'm going to ask this gentleman, did you come in to address the board for any reason?
No, I'm new to the neighborhood.
Okay, well, thank you. We're glad to have you here, but we did have some public input earlier, and I wanted to make sure if you wanted to speak, you got a chance.
No, just want to see what's going on.
Okay, all righty, thank you. We're glad to have you. So is there a need for executive session before we vote on personnel?
Yes.
Mr. Davis has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Riley has seconded.
For G1, employment, appointment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, compensation of a public employee.
All right. And I have 5:40 to enter executive session.
Okay, roll call.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mrs. Bess?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. There will be business when we return because we have a lot of personnel to vote on and whatever. You're welcome to stick around. We'll try to make it as brief as we can.
Sherry? 7:37.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is personnel. I need a motion and a second, please. We have, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, several items.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Best and a second by Dr. Shipley for personnel. Is there any discussion?
I would like to make a motion, I believe, that we table item number 19.
I will second that.
Is that a
Table.
motion or a resolution? I'm not sure.
Resolution.
Table item,
Table.
Yep.
And I will second that.
okay. And that is, any discussion on that other than the motion? Now we have to vote on that resolution, right?
Yep, we have to vote on the tabling, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
No. Is there anything else we need to look at in personnel before we vote? Okay. We have resignations, employment of an assistant director of special ed, school psychologist. We have several certified contracts, secondary summer distribution driver, three employment of confidential employees, employment of administrators. Item number 8, certified contracts. These are 3-year limited renewals. Item number 7, these are teachers list. Number 8, employment of certified contracts, 2-year contracts. And the list on number 9 is 1-year limited renewals. 10, employment of certified contracts, continuing contracts. Then 11 is classified for the first of 3 2-year contracts, employment of classified continuing, and non-renewal of certified contracts. These are people that were temporarily placed in positions to finish out a year or something like that. Number 14, employment of classified substitutes. 15, there are several supplementals from each of our school buildings. 16 is a resignation of a custodian. Oh, we got to do that separate, don't we?
Yep.
Okay.
1 through 15 is for the
So
motion.
1 through 15 right now. And ask for roll call, please.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. All right, I need a motion and a second, please, for resignation number 16 of a custodian, and there's a relationship there. Is that you, David?
Yeah.
Mr. Riley moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Davis has seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Abstain.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. And then item number 17 is employment of a confidential employee. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
I'll second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Abstain.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Item number 18 is the employment of a classified contract. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Riley has moved. Mrs. Best has seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Abstain.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. And then we go into administrative advisory. We had the transportation handbook to look at, the high school athletic association membership, and a job description adoption. I need a motion and a second, please.
I'll move.
Dr. Shipley has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Mr. Davis. Is there any discussion on any of those? Comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. Under old business, the treasurer mentioned earlier in the meeting that we needed to set up an additional meeting for the 17th or 24th. 24th works best for me. I don't know about anybody else.
24th is good for me.
Okay. Will that be here at the CTC and at 5 o'clock on the 24th?
Well, we could have it at 5 o'clock, or there was some expression at the board that you may want to have a second public input if you wanted to do it at 7 o'clock.
Do it that night. Okay,
Why don't we do it then?
that would work.
And is the intention for that meeting, the supplemental personnel?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be correct.
Yep.
There might be a few teachers, new hires, a teacher on a continuing contract. And one other note I wanted to make to the board was, I just want to make note that my secretary is doing a tremendous job. She's very efficient. And I'm going to say this because Mr. Davis is here. I mean, people don't do the job they don't, but she does. She's very efficient. She's thorough, professional as we want, you know, when people call in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make note of the board how good she's doing, and I appreciate the 2-year contract.
I can attest, I've witnessed some of that just in passing. You know, I don't work with her day in and day out, but I was impressed in just passing, so.
She loves her job. She's doing a good job.
Good.
On that note, Mr. Grooms, I had the opportunity to visit with the elementary nurses today, and we've been trying to get supplies too with Mrs. Mitchell too for the other 2 buildings. And I just really love the compassion that these nurses are showing toward these children and how much they love them. So kudos to them.
Send a thank you to Dr. Blitzel for his partnership, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the additional meeting will be on the 24th at 7. We need to do a good publicity job if we're going to invite more people to visit and discuss the inside millage, so.
We probably need an authorizing motion and vote on that to schedule
Okay.
a special meeting.
Okay,
I would make that motion that we have a special meeting on June 24th at 7 p.m. here at the CTC with the intention of.
I suppose we need to make sure there's nothing going on here in the building that day.
Yeah, we should make sure this room is clear on,
Yeah.
on the calendar. Yeah, for the purpose of personnel and public input to inside millage.
Okay. Mr. Riley has moved. Is there a second? Okay. Mrs. Bass? Okay. If the location can be here, it will be. If not, there'll be a change to that. But roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes. Is there any need for another executive session?
Not after the last one.
I will open up the floor for a motion and a second for adjournment.
So moved.
Mr. Davis has moved,
I'll second.
and Dr. Shipley has seconded. I'm not even going to ask for discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
7:47.
That is an error.